Hello everybody, my name is Player Negative, and yes, today we are talking about it, a live-action remake. Now, yesterday was Father's Day, and against my better judgment, my entire family told me that we were going to go see the How to Train Your Dragon live-action remake. Now, as someone who knows why these remakes are made, you can imagine my reaction was less than pleasant. But upon actually seeing it, it was actually good, which I both love and hate to say because I know why these live-action remakes are made, but this seemed different. Because number one, I like how it followed the source material and wasn't just an unnecessary cash grab, but I also didn't like that it was disrespecting the animation and things that came before it. So, for the sake of my sanity and for the sake of your understanding, here's what I think about How to Train Your Dragon, the live-action remake. Now, before we get into anything, I am not saying the movie was perfect. No, there were a few issues, but this was generally good. And this could lead to a way where live-action remakes could maybe be good, but honestly, I'm not going to hold my breath for it because I believe in originality and I believe in animation. And God, so let's just get into this. Starting off with one of the main issues, the casting. Now, apart from Hiccup, Astrid, and Stoic, and Gobber, the rest of them all have a few slight issues I need to address. Starting off with the first obvious issue, Snotlout. Now, if you don't know which one he is, first of all, you should watch the original animated movie, but he's the one after Fish Legs and Astrid. So, to explain my main issue with him is that they completely got his character wrong. You see, Snotlout in the movie, the original movie for that matter, is meant to serve as Hiccup's equivalent to Flash Thompson. Someone who's more impressive, stronger, and generally looks down on him. He's very snarky, and he tries to impress Astrid in every single turn. However, in the live-action movie, they just nerfed him down completely. They made him shorter, he's not as good-looking, and generally, he is kind of the dictionary definition of a simp, which felt really annoying, but they did manage to keep his annoying demeanor and most of his personality intact apart from these issues. Then there's Fish Legs. Like, number one, why didn't they cast someone with the same skin or hair color? Now, I'm not sure if it's that stupid idea that you gotta make your entire cast diverse without actually doing it and just showing it. But, Fish Legs was portrayed a little bit saltier than he was. Not as bad as Snotlout's character assassination, but just bad enough. You see, for those of you who don't know, Fish Legs is basically the second brains of the head group, next to Hiccup. He's incredibly intelligent, and he's pretty skilled. But the movie kind of made him a little bit more bumbling than normal, which is kind of a drawback to how he is. He was someone who would at least talk to Hiccup, which was a good plus because in a lot of future continuation entries in the series, he does that, and that's kind of a part of how he is. Because they're both genuinely intelligent, except Hiccup has more agility due to his flimsy body, and Fish Legs is more stubby. But I did not like how the film kind of just made him very bumbling and just not very supportive, because I felt like he would have been the guy to actually talk to him in the original like he was before, but I don't know. Oh yeah, I've got these two chuckleheads, Rough Nut and Tough Nut, the twins. Now, I need to explain something that I generally didn't like about the movie. Number one, their main dynamic is that despite the fact they hate each other, they actually care, and two, even though they look similar and they say they're identical by everyone else's perspective, they completely deny it. Now, take a look at the live-action version. Now, do you see the problem here? Number one, they kept the helmets the same, I appreciate that, but they completely ruined the twins' dynamic. They actually argue with each other, but they hate each other, and also, they don't look alike. Not to mention, they changed the hair color from blonde to ginger. And not saying that's a bad thing because, you know, if you've seen any of my shorts, you know I have red hair myself. But it just completely strays away from what made them good. Not to mention, they're not even actual twins. I mean, could you hire people who are actually twins for this movie? It's just like in Lilo and Stitch, to be honest, with this situation. Like, they're the main worst part of the movie I had to date yet. And speaking of character inconsistencies, then there's Gobber. Alright, so one thing to explain about this guy is that, number one, he's Stoic the Vast, aka Hiccup's dad's best friend. He's a blacksmith, and he's generally very important to the overall plot as being the one person who has faith in Hiccup as an inventor. But the live-action movie decided to basically have him hate his inventions and his skills in mind, and be someone who helped him get into dragon training out of pity instead of out of wanting to help him, which honestly really makes me annoyed because it kind of ruined his goofiness and overall tone of being nice or helpful and also informative. But honestly, he's still a good amount of him. There's still a good amount of his personality that stuck to the source material, which I appreciate. But there's like a few minor things that kind of mess with the story. But apart from those minor inconveniences, the story seems to have the same plot points. It hits everything pretty solid. It's good. Almost a little too good. But of course, like all things are, Trainer Dragon, like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, and many others, has an extensive load of lore. It's all contained inside this little book, the Book of Dragons, an important instruction guide to each dragon's classifications, their behavior, and how they fight. This is very important in many different instances because of how the dragons are explained and how they work. The movie completely avoided that. You see, the Book of Dragons, Hiccup very much reads thoroughly, and he explains each dragon very slowly and very well. But the movie has him speed through all of them because the pacing's a little too fast. And also a major issue that's kind of a gut punch, and this is kind of just a personal thing, it's explained that any Viking who's fought a dragon has put a page in there, which I do not believe that at all, because in reality, if you watch the original movie, you would know that, or later on in other source material, that Gobber's great-great-grandfather was the one who wrote the book. It was written by one Viking. You see, Gobber's great-great-grandfather, by the name of Bork the Bold, but before that his name was Bork the very, 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 very unfortunate, basically dealt with issues in his life for being, well, hated by every dragon. You see, any job or career he would try to have in life, agriculture, mining, farming, fishermen, a dragon would get near him and basically ruin everything. So he kept a catalog and a classification for each dragon, which is where we're going to explain one of the lingering issues. Number one, they ruined the classifications, and number two, they ruined the symbols for them. Here's a look. Now, in the original, the symbols looked like this, each explaining a different type of dragon. You have the Stoker class, which are the main fire breathers, the hard hitters who exist. Boulder class, rock-eating type dragons. Fear class, which or Strikers class, Title class, and Shape class. Shark class. Tracker class, or Fear class, is where the Zibbleback hails from, which is why it's on the main insignia. You have the Title class, which are water-based dragons, like the Skuldrin, which is literally a dragon that will shoot you with boiling hot water. You have the Mystery class, which are just the Changelings, the very low-leveled dragons. And then the Strikers class, which there are only 2 entries in this entire set of books that exist. Now, the live action decided to butcher this and make them all look like this. Now, I don't know why they didn't use the original symbols, because they were designed specifically to look like an insignia on a Viking shield. These ones just are random shapes, which honestly feels very annoyed because those class photos I showed you earlier were part of some of the main dragons in this universe core identity, because when seeing the symbol, you would know, all right, that's connected to this. But this, you don't see that at all. But I know a majority of you don't care about all that stuff because you have a very short attention span or you just don't care. So you're probably asking, how was the movie's overall story and plot? Well, it's about the same except with a few nerfed details apart from some of the characters. Number one, it misses a very important rule of filmmaking. A very, very important part of storytelling that you've probably heard 100 times, but for the sake of this video, I will tell you once more. Show, do not tell. Something Disney clearly didn't understand. You see, when you write a character or a story, an action or a scene with them can give you a very good idea on how they are as a character, or the main message of the story. I can't tell you how many Disney movies didn't take this route and just decided to hammer in its message to you daily throughout the plot like a dose of bad medicine. So for those of you who actually remember the movie, you remember that Hiccup generally dealt with the issue of being overlooked and seen as the weaker Viking because of his lack of muscle, or physique for that matter, and the fact he's more skilled and intelligent, a quality that Burke wouldn't really care about when brute strength and killing a dragon is everything in this place. So, how did the movie screw this up? Well, number one, they hammered in the fact that Hiccup's bad. Like, they constantly wouldn't stop. Like, there was even this running joke in the movie where both Gobber and Stoic would gesture to Hiccup's entire body and say, be a little less more like this. And he gestures to all of him, which really is insulting. And people constantly made jokes in the movie that, wow, now I can show my face in public now that I don't have to be embarrassed by Hiccup. Like, what the heck? In the movie originally, there were signs and obvious details like Hiccup's small stature compared to everyone else and the fact that he's very skinny. And the movie focused too much on this unnecessary plot point for too long. However, it didn't damage everything, and it did lead to some good, but still, it felt kind of annoying, especially considering Gobber was the one person in the original movie who was on his side, because as someone who literally has retachable body parts that are used to build and reforge weapons, he understands Hiccup's craft. But in the live-action movie, they just completely threw that out the window for no reason, which honestly really annoyed me. And I already went over my issues with the main cast about how basically the twins, Snotlout and Fishlegs, all had some minor watered-down defects with their characterization. Fishlegs was made to be more bumbling, twins don't look alike and don't respect each other, and Snotlout's just really, really not what he was supposed to be. I mean, in this picture, you can clearly tell that he's taller than he is, so you get the problem. But of course, we can't talk about this movie without talking about dragons. I've already addressed the Stoker, Boulder, Sharp, Tidal, Fear, Mystery, and Strike classes. How did the movie handle these dragons individually, and how did they do their designs justice? To be honest, not too bad, actually. All of them seem to look good, even with the CGI realistic designs that they got. Toothless looks pretty fine. Stormfly looks normal. The Zibbleback actually looks really good. And the Terrible Terror looks pretty much the same except for the chameleon eyes. However, there's one dragon and a few others that are massive outliers. First up, the Monstrous Nightmare. Now let me explain this thing to you for a little bit. This dragon is part of the Stoker class, the fire-breathing class I was talking about earlier. And the reason it's called a Monstrous Nightmare is because it seems to have a hellish-like design based off its uncanny ability to have a layer of skin that can set itself on fire on command. Now, this is what the original animated design looks like. So, yeah, the live-action design could have gotten an overhaul, and what you see on the top image is someone trying to actually edit it to make it look more like the character. The face was too short, The jaw was a little bit weird, and to be honest, the eyes weren't given much justice. Apart from that, its design was also never given the whole elongated face shape. Apart from that, the wing pattern is pretty the same, except scaled down a little bit, and the color palette looks pretty good. Imagine that. A live-action remake that doesn't mute itself in browns and grays. Someone could learn a thing or two. Then there's the Gronkle. This is the main dragon you think of when you think of the Boulder class. A rock-eating dragon that basically shoots rocks at molten temperatures. Now, this dragon genuinely isn't that tough. It's considered to be one of the more weaker dragons, and while it is skilled in brute strength, it is a lot easier to kill. But the movie completely screwed up this thing's design. Now, the body shape is pretty much fine, and the wings are well done, but the color palette is just this weird brown, greenish teal that genuinely doesn't belong. And if you think this is just a lighting effect, most of the movie frames it to look like this. Even the merchandise looks like trash when you look at this dragon. Here's the actual official popcorn bucket. My family managed to get it when we first watched the movie. And just look at it for starters. This is not a bad renditioning of the character. This is what they actually look like. They are made to look greenish and brown. Meanwhile, every other dragon follows their respective color palette almost completely right. And I already talked about why this thing's face needed to be longer and the eyes needed to be positioned properly. But apart from that, that's my only critique with that dragon. So in conclusion, How to Train a Dragon, despite a few missteps and clear obvious outliers of misunderstanding the source material, did a good job by doing the first thing ever, actually knowing your audience and understanding the story. And while there are a lot of missteps, I kind of liked it. I enjoyed watching the movie, even though I had mixed opinions on certain scenes, and I generally think the story was well done. They even kept the original soundtrack, including the massive opening theme whenever Hiccup's flying out on Toothless. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you later.